Okay, I see my voice. There we go. This video is going to be a little bit more off the cuff. I got a comment on YouTube asking me to rate the rental decks of the game. If you get certain focal cards, the game will give you a deck that you can use in only the solo content for, I think, 10 total battles, and then it locks you out of it. And if you get every single card in the deck, the game will give you a recipe to be able to rapidly and easily build the deck, I guess. These are very helpful when you're first setting out, when you're doing all the solo battles. And doing all the solo battles is a really good way of getting the tickets, which you can then use to buy the hourglasses, which you can then use to get lots and lots of cards. So it's a really good way. Being able to win the solo battles, also very low stress. You don't have to play against any human opponents. Very good way to start out and get a whole bunch of cards for your deck. Um, so having, you basically use whatever rental deck you even have access to. Ideally, you use the one that's super effective to whatever you're fighting, but there's a certain point where you just have to use what you have. But I think it kind of gives most players their first little idea of what an ideal deck looks like. And these are not, by no means are these optimized decks. I think they do look a little bit better in the Mythical Island expansion than they do in the original. But I think it's a nice little insight into what a typical deck looks like, and I can also, from my experience playing this game, give some examples of how the deck is weak and could be better still. If you were going to make your own deck out of these, there are like various improvements you could make to make them a lot more competitive. Um, so it's going to be a little analysis on which decks are the really good ones, and then what you can do to really make them better. I can't find a better way of looking at them than this little menu. You can see them in the advanced solo battles, but there's not one of those for all of them. Only some of them are represented there. And unfortunately, I'm playing this on the PC with Android emulation, if I'm being 100% honest. And this isn't my copy on my phone, and I've just used this to stream the game to show off various things. So I don't have a whole bunch of the cards. It'd be nice if I could look at the decks in their entirety, but a lot of the cards are going to be grayed out. We can still see them, and I still know what they do, but I won't be able to blow them up and kind of show them off. Um, anyway, let's get into it. I think we're going to start off just top to bottom with Genetic Apex, and then we'll go look at Mythical Islands. This is being recorded like 3 days behind before the next expansion, the Dalgapalkia thing. So the Genetic Apex ones were made and don't feature any Mythical Island mons, and the Mythical Island ones feature Genetic Apex stuff, but kind of emphasize the Mythical Island. And we don't have any cards yet from Dalgapalkia that could theoretically go into this. I'm sure there's going to be just a teeny tiny bit of power creep at least. There's going to be some new cards from the new expansion that would fit into these and make them even better still. Um, I'm gonna keep that in mind when I'm looking at the decks. The Genetic Apex, like now you can put Mythical Island cards into it and they'd be better, but at the time you couldn't, so it makes sense why some of them were built the way they are. I haven't looked at all of them in a while. Probably I haven't even looked at probably a few of them I haven't looked at all. And then the other ones, it's been a minute. And when I initially saw them, I saw them before I'd really played the game a lot competitively. So I'm kind of going to be looking at them with new eyes. Let's get into it. Right? Venusaur. We got the Bulbasaur line. I actually have the rare version of that card. Ivysaur, Venusaur. I actually don't have Venusaur EX on this. Venusaur EX is the game's bulkiest card, 190 HP. You got two different attacks. It's very energy hungry. The whole line, actually. Bulbasaur even needing 2 energies to do anything is a bit of a nuisance, and then 3 for Ivysaur and 4 for Venusaur. Well, Venusaur can attack with 3, but 4 for its good attack. So it's kind of a mon. They do have decent HP. They all have good HP, but it's a mon you've got to kind of build up in the back while you're doing other stuff. So having a mon that you can hide behind while you're building up is very strong. And conveniently, they actually have the Execute and Executor. In an ideal world, you'd probably run Executor EX in this deck. One interesting thing I immediately notice is they're only running one Venusaur EX, and they're only running one Executor. In an ideal world, if you're building this deck yourself, you would probably have dupes of the entire line. You'd have 2 Bulbasaur, 2 Ivysaur, 2 Venusaur, 2 Execute, 2 Executor, no doubt. Um, that's going to be a theme going forward. Is that a lot of the decks are not sufficiently specialized. You want to be able to reliably get the cards that you want to get, and if you have a whole bunch of mons and their evolutions, it's very hard to actually draw the evolution you want, and you'll just be drawing a bunch of evolutions of cards you don't want, for example. Skiddo and Gogo. those two cards, these two, Executor line and the Bulbasaur line, they do have some synergy. There, this is you could take this online and win with it pretty easily. Um, Skiddo, I have never seen anyone use online. I think it's 40 damage for 1 energy, but a 50-50 shot that it does nothing. Looks like 70 HP if I'm squinting. Looks like an okay card. I don't like the randomness of it. I already don't love. Well, 40 damage is pretty good. At least your average damage is normal. And I think that 40 can be pretty disruptive in the early game. Like if you just get 2 heads in a row, that's pretty obnoxious for your opponent. So just a quarter of games, you're just gonna like kill a basic or something like that, which is nice. But yeah, this is not. You probably want Skiddo on the field just so you can evolve it as fast as possible. Go-Go's another card where I've never seen anyone use it. Just looking at it right now, 70 damage is not bad. 3 energies is pretty slow. So the only fast card you have in this deck is Executor, and that's very nice. You'd like to draw that right away. And then you'd like to be building up stuff like the Go-Go in the back or the Bulbasaur in the back. Go-Go is basically, if you have Bulbasaur and Go-Go, 100% chance you're going to be building up the Bulbasaur. You're going to be ignoring the Go-Go. 120 HP is quite nice, though. And 70 damage attack is quite nice. And 2 retreats, not great, but it's not horrible. You could work around this. Workable card. Rattata Eradicate is like a joke. Shouldn't even be here. This is like what you do with the deck when you don't have enough cards to fill it out. Rattata and Eradicate just have way too low HP. They're not super effective against anything. You just really want to fill your entire deck with grass types if you can help it. If you're going to be running a deck like this, you don't want to resort to colorless. There are some colorless cards that are quite good. I think Rattata and Eradicate are actually in a lot of these decks, and just an immediate improvement is that if you could put some grass types that are more specialized than these guys in there, you would. Even if it's something like Petalil and Lilligant or something like that for a little bit of energy acceleration. Obviously, the Snivy line is quite good, but I don't know if it's that good with this deck. Because nothing... I mean, Venusaur does need a lot of energy, but having Snivy and Bulbasaur lines is going to be very slow. You got 2 stage 2 lines that you got to go through. It's just not going to happen in a lot of games. You got Potion and Erica. It's common to have a bunch of support cards. Hold on, time out. Let me look at this. How many basics have we got in here? 2 Bulbasaur, 2 Execute, 2 Skiddo, 2 Rattata. We got 8 basics. It's probably more than you need. For a really long time, I ran a deck with 4 basics, and that's, I think, too few. 8 is a very comfortable amount. It's a push and pull. Like, you want a lot of basics, but you also... The more basics you have, the less room you have for, like, various support cards. So this is probably too many. You could probably just axe the entire Skiddo and Go-Go, and then just run another Potion, another Erica, stuff like that. Sabrina is a very common card to run in any deck. Giovanni is a very common card to run in any deck. Leaf would be really good. We've got no cards in this deck that allow you to switch easily, and that's kind of a big deal because both Executor has a crazy retreat cost, and so does Venusaur. Probably if Venusaur is in the field, it's do or die. It's going to be here until it's dead. But the other ones you could potentially switch out to save them, such as Executor or Go-Go. So having Leaf in this deck would be very good, or even just X Speed. So immediate fixes for this deck: probably kill Skiddo, probably add in another Erica just to make your the theme of it. This is a high HP deck. You might as well just run with it. Have a lot of healing. I would do another Potion. I would do another Erica. I'd probably do X Speed and Leaf. Oh, and I would definitely kill the Rattata Eradicate. I think you could get away with... you might want another basic, though. 2 Bulbasaur, 2 Execute is not really enough in terms of basics. So you might want to just chuck in... it could be anything. It could be a Farfetch'd. It could be a Dhelmise. No, I wouldn't do Dhelmise for this kind of deck. What's like a grass type that just sits there? I'm drawing a blank. Like just a grass type basic that's just, I don't know. Just comes out and fills out the team. Let me look at the look at grass types for a second here. None of these are jumping out at me. Not Tangela. That thing is not great. Yeah, Petalil and Lilligant I mentioned earlier. They would be a contender. Celebi EX would be an obvious contender, but there's a certain point where it just becomes the Celebi EX deck. And that wasn't out when they initially made that. But probably one of those two. Probably Petalil would be fine in that. It would be good. It would be good in that deck. Petalil and Lilligant would be good to consider. That's my thoughts on the first one. I'm probably going to pick this up because that was pretty slow. It's going to be a lot of the same things as we go down. This one is an okay deck. It can be fixed very easily once you have just a few extra cards. But it's good enough that it works. It's probably going to be one of the lower end ones we look at. Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard. This has no energy acceleration. The only energy acceleration for fire right now is Moltres EX. If you have that, you would absolutely run it with Charizard. There's no question. Charizard is very energy hungry if you just look at it. 200 damage is enough to kill anything in the game, but you need to discard 2 fire energy every time you use it, and that's just insane. That's like 4 energy to even attack, and then needing to put on more energies over and over and over. And it's a little bit hard, even if you've got like Charmander in the field early on, you're not building up energies on it if you're attacking because you got to discard every time you do. So that's very tricky. Ponyta and Rapidash, again, the ratios are wrong. You would absolutely be running 2 Charizards if you have them. You would absolutely be running 2 Rapidashes. It would maybe even be better to do 1 Ponyta and 2 Rapidash than it would be to do 2 Ponyta and 1 Rapidash. And that's because it's not actually that hard to get your basics, because you're guaranteed one in the beginning, and then Pokeballs can get them for you. Meanwhile, it's very difficult to get the evolutions. So I think the evolutions are actually the ones you'd probably dupe. Moltres is a terrible card. I can't even look at it. I would not include this in the deck at all. I just kill it. That'd be better as a second Rapidash. I've used Salazzle and Salandit. It's fine. I would maybe use the other ones in this deck. I wouldn't use these ones. Again, if you were going to do a deck like this, it would be Moltres something or other. You can do fire decks 2 different ways right now. You can kind of do it with the really quick attackers that don't burn energy, such as the Mythical Islands Rapidash or this Genetic Apex Ninetales. That one actually does burn energy, but it activates very quickly. Or like the Fire Punch Magmar or whatever. The cards that activate very quickly, I guess this Salandit Salazzle also work, but the other Salandit Salazzle even better. You can do decks with those, or you can do the slow kind of setup kind of oriented Firemons, and that'll be stuff like the Volcarona, the Growlithe, the Charizard, and all of those will be hiding behind a Moltres to help you build up the energy. So this one's kind of blurring the lines a little bit. I think if you're using this deck, it's going to be very easy to activate the Ponyta and the Rapidash, and then very hard to activate the Charizard line. In an ideal world, you get the Ponyta out right away and start attacking, and then, this only takes 1 energy to activate. So as soon as you get your 1 energy on it, you just attack with it until it dies or until you have something else set up. And all the time you're sticking energies on a Charmander on the bench or something like that would be the ideal way to play this. But you could have other... I would just not even have the Charmander line in this deck, even though it's like the theme of this deck is the Charmander line. I would have something like Ninetales, Vulpix Ninetales, and maybe Magmar. The Salandit's okay, he can stay. Rattata, Eradicate, useless, take them out. X-Speed, good, I like to see that here. Pokeball, Professor's Research, you should have these 4 in every deck you ever make. They're the 4 best cards in the game. You could have Potion, it would be okay, it wouldn't be horrible. Leaf would be okay, Blue would be okay. You got a lot of freedom with your supporters. You can play what you want. I would absolutely run Blaine in any deck that has Rapidash. Blaine is the thing that makes Rapidash good. This is an okay card that turns into an amazing card when you factor in Blaine. Blaine is plus 30 damage. 2 Rapidash, 2 Ninetales, and 2 Magmar. And so those cards have good synergy with each other. So I would kill the Charmander line and put in Vulpix Ninetales, and then I would maybe chuck in a Magmar. And that would be pretty good. 2 Ponyta, 2 Salandit, 2 Vulpix, a Magmar. Something like that would be very normal. And then just kill the Eradicate and all that. And then just fix the ratios. Like make it so you got 2 and 2 of the basic and the evolution or whatever. And then get rid of this Moltres. This Moltres is horrible. If you don't know, it's 130 damage for a coin flip and it's 3 energies to activate. 3 energies to... 130 damage is a lot, but 3 energies is pretty slow. That's a pretty good deck overall. But I feel like if you're using this deck, it's just going to be you're going to be seeing these cards all the time, and very rarely will you see these cards. But it's not like never. Like you could get this Charizard off, and you could like spend a few turns swinging around your Slash, and then when you're getting your final point with the Crimson Storm, it doesn't matter that you're discarding because you're getting your final point. So it could work, but it's poor synergy. I feel. Blastoise, we got 2 of the little basics, and then the Blastoise. That line is fast enough. I like that Blastoise can attack with only 2 energies if it wants to. And 100 damage is pretty good for 3, and then it turns into 160 if you have 5 energies on it, which is very slow, but very possible. I've done it loads of times, so I've got a good Blastoise EX deck that gets a lot of work done. Psyduck activates relatively quickly, and Golduck has very good damage for only 2 energies, so this is fine. I feel like you should have some fast cards in your deck and some slow cards most of the time, and the Psyduck line is pretty fast. Lapras is kind of fast, I guess. It's got a lot of HP, so it's like an early game wall. It's like 100 HP, but it's only 1 energy to attack with, but the attack only does 20 damage. In a pinch, you can put a bunch of energy on it, and it gets powered up, but it takes like 4 or something like that to get the power up, so it's very slow. Articuno, this is actually a pretty good card. Again, it's very slow. Pyukumuku, what is it, 30? Is it 30? Yeah, this is the kind of card that it's okay, but no one runs it. The HP is good enough. 60, if you're higher than 60, that's nice. 60 is kind of the absolute cutoff of like a low HP, and anything above that on a basic is better than 60. And 30 damage is pretty nice. Just because there's a lot of like, there are 20 and 30 damage attacks, and having 70 means that it takes 3 20. You live through 3 20 damage attacks and 2 30 damage attacks, and that's quite important for the early game. Pyukumuku and Psyduck are the early game cards in here, and then you'll be sticking energies on your, I don't know, your Articuno, your Lapras, well, Lapras is an early game card too, your Squirtle. So there's a little bit of synergy here. If you have Misty, it would be a lot better, but we don't have, no, we do have a Misty. Okay, you would definitely have 2 Misty on a deck like this. Misty has nice synergy with Articuno, it's got nice synergy with Squirtle. Good synergy with Lapras. Any card where it needs a lot of energy and can benefit from a lot of energy. Obviously, there's a million ways you can make this better. Simplifying the cards a little bit. If you had like Articuno EX, that would be really nice. If you had a second Blastoise EX, that'd be really good. There's other water types you could maybe run in here. Like maybe you could run like the Greninja line now. I think that was out. Yeah, Greninja was out at launch, so you could have done that one instead. This is kind of like a mid-speed water deck. There's slower ones like the Magikarp decks, and there's faster ones like the Starmie decks. Rattata, useless. Take it out. X-Speed is not super important here, but it's not horrible. Leaf is not super important, but it's not horrible. Potion is okay. Sabrina is okay. You got some options. There's just certain cards you take out and certain cards you put in, but this is workable. This is an okay deck. I would not have the Lapras. I would not have the Articuno, and I'd probably not have the Pyukumuku. And obviously I wouldn't have the Rattata. I don't know what I would put instead, though. Articuno EX would be really nice. There's a lot of different ways. I think probably the Froakie line would be okay. Let me think. You could do Luminion nowadays. They didn't have that when this deck was originally made, but it's quite good. That would maybe work here. Starmie would work here, obviously, but I don't know if it has got that much energy with what's going on already. This is okay. It's an okay deck. Don't have much to say about it. Pikachu, I think I remember it being actually pretty good. So I've been complaining that there's too many basics, but actually Pikachu EX is powered up by having a full bench. So you would run an ass ton of basics. Obviously in an ideal world you would have a second Pikachu EX. The Voltorb Electrode line is quite good. You have Electrode has 70 damage for 2 energy, which is nice, and then you also have a free retreat cost, so you can kind of pivot around very easily. You can very easily set up an early game Voltorb Electrode, and then when the time comes, you can just retreat your Electrode out to the Pikachu, and maybe even Lieutenant Surge Electrode's energies onto the Pikachu. So that's quite strong. Electric decks are usually very fast, and also a lot of mileage out of attacking benched mons with Zebstrika. Zebstrika is one of the premier cards on electric decks. You would absolutely have 2 Zebstrika in this deck. As for other electric types, I would not have the Dynamo line. That's kind of weird to have here. It's not a great card. 30 HP is pretty hilarious. Tiny Charge is a very cute name. Great card art. I would not run this thing. This thing is a liability. This thing could just die. It's nice that it's a basic and it like fills out your bench for your Pikachu, but like Joltik is this but better. You literally just have 10 more HP and then a better evolution. And then like you're using a lot of deck space for this nonsense. Like what are we doing with Electrike and Electros? Electros is okay, but it just takes forever to get. Helioptile is not horrible. I used to use this in electric decks. I think a lot of people did. Now it's like, okay, you can do way better. But once upon a time, you couldn't do better. I think Joltik and, what's it called, Galvantula would be much better teammates here. You could just remove the Helioptiles and put those guys in. I like that we don't have Rattata. They didn't even mess around trying to pretend like Rattata was a good mon for this one. They actually put together... This is the best deck we've looked at so far, I think. I would have a second Substrika. I'd probably have a second Electrode. I'd probably take out this whole Dynamo line and this Helioptile line and put in like Joltik line. And maybe Zapdos EX if you can find room. Another Pikachu EX. And this would be like a meta deck. This would be actually extremely strong if you had those. What else? Standard things with the items. There are other items you could put here. These are good. Like there's too few of them maybe. I feel like you should have at least like 6, maybe like 8 cards of your deck be items or supporters. But this is kind of a rare instance where because Pikachu likes bench Pokemon so much, it's okay to run a bunch of basics. And this deck is running a bunch of basics. This deck understands the assignment. It just has kind of the wrong lines, I feel. But it's still workable. It's still okay. That's a really good one, honestly. Mewtwo EX. I understand what they're going for here. It's very disorganized. Definitely if you have one Mewtwo EX, you'd like to run another one. You know, obviously. That's what we're here for. Mewtwo EX is maybe the best card in the game. Clefairy Clefable is pretty funny. Rarely do you see this. I think I've run into one person online ever using the Clefable line. It's just, it's like Raticate but better. So it's kind of funny that we also have Raticate here. Like Clefable has a metal weakness, which is way better than the fighting weakness on Raticate. And you also have 20 more HP, and your attack does the same amount of damage. Now the downside is that this requires a Psychic Energy, but obviously this is a Psychic deck, so you're going to have the Psychic Energy. That's not going to be an issue. Slowpoke and Slowbro is pretty slow. Mewtwo is very slow. You're never going to be putting energies on the Slowpoke and the Slowbro because you're going to be putting them on the Mewtwo. So this just has terrible synergy. Mewtwo would prefer to have allies that are faster, require minimal investment because it needs so much investment itself. Typically when people run Mewtwo EX decks, they run Energy Acceleration with the Ralts line. They are best friends. They should always be used together. Ralts, Kirlia Gardevoir, and Mewtwo EX should be in. They should always be partners. You should never run one without the other. So what they went with, they didn't use the Energy Acceleration with this deck, but they used cards that activate with very small amounts of energy. You've got the 1 energy Clefairy line, and then you've also got the 1 energy Ghastly line. So you just stick your 1 energy on your Ghastly, and then even when you evolve it, like every step of this whole process only requires the single energy. So all the spare energy in the future turns are going onto the Mewtwo. So that's some good synergy. The Slowpoke line is the one that's misplaced here. But you would not only replace, in a real meta deck, you would not only replace the Slowpoke line, you would probably also replace the Ghastly line, and you just put like Ralts and all them in there, and then another Mewtwo. Leaf and X-Speed would be nice. Sabrina is okay. You know what I'm gonna say. The items could be fixed up a bit. There could be more items. Machamp. I find Machamp decks to be pretty bad. I've used them quite a lot. Machamp's, even Machop has a retreat cost of 2, which is kind of horrible. And then it's 2 for Machoke and I think 3 for Machamp. Yeah, there. Their gimmick is that they're just pretty strong and they have decent HP. But you kind of lock in with them. You know, you come in with your Machamp, you come in with your Machop and you just put energies on it and you evolve it as you go. And there's no thought. This is like the zero thought deck. These guys almost don't even need allies. Honestly, you're just going in with your first Machop and then you're going in with your second Machop. Obviously, a second Machamp would be really nice. Mankey Primeape is a good line. You can make an entire deck out of these, and actually it's probably the single best way to make an early game beginner deck is the Mankey Primeape in Genetic Apex because they're very common. And once you have them, they're very overwhelming against other beginners. I think nowadays you could do something better. I find Cubone to be a very mediocre card, and the main thing it does is it sets up Marowak EX. But this deck does not have Marowak EX, so I would not run Cubone just to run Marowak. Like, this is already... There's like 3 other fighting types that do exactly this. Like, I think Kabuto has 100 HP and does 40 damage. Mienshao, I think, has 90 HP and does 40. I think there's another one. But there's like several that just do 40 damage for 1 energy, and it's like, what are we running Cubone for? This is just a worse basic that just evolves into like a bog standard mon. I would take these guys out in favor of one of them. I don't know which one. Mankey Line's okay. I don't think it has that much synergy with Machop, but I don't know what has synergy with Machop. Machop is kind of like devoid of synergy, I feel. Hitmonlee is a great card, actually. It's 30 damage on one of the opponent's bench Pokemon. This is very obnoxious in the current meta, being able to snipe particular targets. I would definitely run 2 of these in a fighting deck because it's one of the best fighting cards in the game right now. I like that they didn't try and pretend like Hitmonchan was a good card. Rattata Line, take it out. What would you run in here? You just wouldn't even have a Machop deck in the first place, I feel. You would definitely have Leaf if you're running Machop, so you could like switch around more easily. You would have 2 X speeds and 2 Leafs, I feel. And this one has not even a single retreating card. So that's a little suspect. Potion I think is okay though, because you're kind of locked in with your cards. I think maybe 2 potions would actually work pretty well on this one. Overall, this is probably the weakest one we've looked at so far. I'm not impressed by this one. Let's see here. Nidoking, Nidoqueen. This one is very goofy. I wish I could look at them a little bit more closely. I wish I could blow it up on my screen over there. I don't really know. I could have zoomed in, so I don't know, because I'm kind of using the whole screen here. The Nido lines are a little suspect, I feel. Nidoran female can't even attack. Nidorino, or Nidorina is okay. Nidoqueen is, I think, what, 80? Yeah, 80, and then it's 50 more for every Nidoking on your bench. It's already very slow building up a single stage 2. But building up 2 stage 2s, that requires a lot of luck, honestly, or a very slow game. And it's possible. I've fought Nidoqueen decks, and they can get up the Nidoqueen and the Nidoking. I think I've beaten almost every Nido deck I've ever run into. And it's not been a few. I've seen a few people trying this strategy. Nidoqueen is very strong when you have a Nidoking. And one cool thing I will say about this deck is that they're all basics. There's no EX cards. Or no, they're not all basics, but there's no EX cards. So the opponent actually genuinely has to knock out 3 things. They've got to get 3 points. How are we looking for basics, though? We have the random Kangaskhan and the random Tauros, just because otherwise we would only have the Nidos as basics, and that's not enough. So I think that's the right call. I don't know if these are the ones you'd run. Tauros is a little suspect. Kangaskhan, I think, is good. Maybe Farfetch'd or another Kangaskhan would be nice. I like that Kangaskhan is kind of bulky. Farfetch'd is a very fast attacker and a very good card, generally better than Kangaskhan. But Kangaskhan has the advantage of being a better wall while you set up cards. It takes longer to kill a Kangaskhan than it does a Farfetch'd. So if you manage to lead with Kangaskhan, you can kind of start setting up your evolutionary lines. And it takes time to get up these lines. You know, you got to draw a lot of cards sometimes. So you really want something bulky to hide behind. A Snorlax, well, I think it's a terrible card, is genuinely worthy of consideration here. Although I think I would do 2 Kangaskhan's if it's me. One annoying thing about Kangaskhan is 3 retreat cost. So again, 2 leaf, 2 X speed would be very common in a deck like this. Nidoking has other partners it could run. Nidoking poisons enemies, so you could run something with Venoshock. I guess not really, because all of them also are very slow. Scolipede is very slow. Muck is very slow. And when I say slow, I mean slow to set up. What's the other one? Salandit is very fast to set up, but not particularly strong. Nidoking, I don't know. It's an okay card. It's quite good, I guess. No, it's not that good. Nidoqueen is kind of the star of this deck. And even then, it's only a great card if you can get Nidoking up as well. This one's 1 in 10 battles. This is going to do something incredible, and then probably against top meta decks, probably 2 or 3 out of 10 you're even going to win. It's just not very strong, I feel. It's too slow. Other slow decks set up faster than this or are better once they're set up. All you're really building up to is 130 or even 180 damage per hit, which is good. What's the HP on Nidoqueen? That's what I really want to know. 140 and then 150 for Nidoking. Those are both quite good numbers, actually. Especially for the fact that you're not an EX card. The fossils, I think this one is just ridiculous, if memory serves. What are we doing here? We got water and we got fighting. Is this actually a dual-type deck? I don't know, because I've never unlocked it. We got Pokedex in here, which is a bit goofy. I would never run Pokedex at all. We got Aerodactyl, too. Aerodactyl is actually a colorless mon in Genetic Apex, so that's okay. Aerodactyl is a really funny card. I don't know if it's a good card, but it's very funny. They randomly put Chansey and Kangaskhan in here. I've never run into anyone using the Ammonite line. I personally have used Kabutops, and it bodies like basics, but it gets owned by almost every win con in the game. It's a very goofy card. Ammonite is, it's okay, you know. Amistar, the gimmick is that once Amistar uses its attack, the opponent cannot attack it back that turn. And you can just use that endlessly as the Amistar. So that can be really good situationally. You know, you hit the opponent, they can't attack. You hit them again, they can't attack. The problem is if you kill something, the new thing that comes in can revenge kill you. But you actually have a very workable HP stat of 140. So this is real. Amistar is kind of real, but it's a little slow compared to a lot of other water types that people run. And the opponent can always switch, potentially, and then attack you after they switch. But that's very energy intensive. So I think Amistar actually there's probably some play to it. Considering I've never seen it, if just thinking about it in my head, it seems like it actually probably could do some work. But I guess people don't want to go through the fossil. That's another annoying thing that I didn't mention about fossils, is you can't use it. You can't use Pokeball for it. Pokeball won't find Helix Fossil, and it won't find Ammonite because Ammonite's considered a Stage 1 card and not a basic. Same with Kabuto and Dome. You would run Ammonite on a water deck. You would run Kabuto on a fighting deck. You wouldn't do this weird thing where you're running both of them. Maybe in the original TCG, where you had Mysterious Fossil, you would run them both together. But now you've got different fossils for like all three, and Old Amber for Aerodactyl. This is just ridiculous. That's like 6 of the cards in your deck are fossils. You would never run fossils like that. You could run 6 fossils in the same deck, but it wouldn't be for this. It would be for discarding. Because the fossils, the gimmick is you can just play it and discard it in the same turn. And all that does is make your deck smaller, or your hand smaller, which can be really useful. It has good synergy with cards like Chad Otter and some couple others. This one is actually now the worst deck we've looked at. This is just bad. Almost everything here is very slow to set up. The only thing that's fast to set up is Kangaskhan or Kabuto. And setting up is very awkward because we got 2 different energies. So I say Kabuto is fast to set up, but like what if you only draw water? And then what? You're just going to be sitting there with your dumbass Kabuto that can't do anything. And then what are we looking at for Amistar? It's 1 water, 2 colorless to attack. That's okay. You could get a bye with doing that in a colorless deck. You'll probably, by 3 energies, you're probably going to draw a water. That one gets a pass. And then Aerodactyl, we got colorless Mons, Kangaskhan, Tauros. They're okay. I would never run Pokedex here. I wouldn't run Tauros. This whole deck just doesn't work. I would never run this. This is stupid. I don't even want to talk about it. Blaine, now we're getting somewhere. This is like the fast version of fire decks. Blade decks are fast, Moltres decks are slow. You can run Moltres with Blaine. It's not horrible. It's kind of like a mid-speed deck. There have been people who have succeeded with that. I would definitely run 2 Blaines if you're going to do this. Again, Blaine powers up Ninetales, Rapidash, and Magmar. The Growlithe line is a little suspect here. I would maybe not run them. Vulpix, Ninetales are probably the single best abusers of Blaine. I would absolutely run them. Ponyta, Rapidash, I would absolutely run. I like that we've got 2 of each. 2 Vulpix, 2 Ninetales, 2 Ponyta, 2 Rapidash, and 2 Magmar. So this kind of understands the objective of what we're trying to do with Blaine. So I would take out the Growlithe line. You could run more Pokemon there. Moltres EX is a possibility. What do you call it? Salandit, Salazzle is a possibility. Probably there's some others that I'm not immediately thinking of. You could run the Mythical Island Magmar now in this deck. You could also run the Mythical Islands Rapidash. A lot of people swear by this Rapidash because it attacks in 1 turn, and that has value. But the other one's minimum damage is 40, and it only takes a single additional energy. I think people really sleep on the Mythical Islands Rapidash. This one is fine, but it's only better than Mythical Islands Rapidash on turn 3, I feel. Like, the nanosecond, a second energy comes into the equation, Mythical Islands is like a country mile better. But maybe someone's going to say something radically different in the comments. Potion's fine, Pokeballs are necessary, Professor's Research is necessary. This is a very good deck. This is better than the other fire deck we looked at. This could get you some very quick wins. I would just take out Growlithe. I would put in something else instead of Growlithe. Growlithe, Arcanine EX is a very slept-on card. It's a very good card. You could get away with putting that in. That works on fast fire decks. It also works on Moltres decks. It's a good card in general. Lieutenant Surge. We got Surge to funnel energy onto Raichu. Lieutenant Surge, if you don't know, it takes all of your energy from benched Mons and puts it on your active Mon, provided your active Mon is one of these 3. I forgot that there was that caveat. I thought that you could just move it onto anything, but it's got to be one of those 3. Putting it all into Electabuzz is a little suspect. Putting it all into Raichu is the main reason to run this. Putting it all into Electrode is not horrible, but probably you could do something better. So the gimmick here is that Magneton, I can't look at him. Magneton can attach an electric energy to itself every turn for free. Like it doesn't consume your energy use, so you can put your energy onto something else and then also put an energy onto Magneton. And you can have two different Magneton doing that every turn. So let's say you have Raichu, which has a very strong attack that discards all energy. You can use that attack, and if you've got two Magneton on the bench, the next turn you could have one energy from your turn to put on Raichu, and then both Magnetons generate energy onto themselves, and then use Lieutenant Surge to put all those energies onto Raichu, and then Raichu could attack again. The problem is that requires two Magneton and a Lieutenant Surge, which is just a very tall ask. You're probably not going to have all of those things. I think there's merit to, if you're going to run Lieutenant Surge, Magneton is a good partner. And it's not like Magnemite is a horrible card. It's not like Magneton is a horrible card. It's a very expensive attack. 4 energies for 60 damage. But of all the cards in the game, Magneton will very easily be able to hit the energy requirement. One thing is you can't choose how many energies you send over with Lieutenant Surge. You always send all of them, which is actually super, super annoying. Because it means that once your Raichu attacks, if it kills something but then is killed in the following turn, like, you know, you have no energies on anything, and it's like, okay, well, now my Magneton needs 4 energy to attack. It's going to take at least 2 turns. Voltorb, Electrode, very good cards. Fine in this deck. Pikachu, it, you know, just exists to be a Raichu. Raichu is a good card. What are your early kills on this deck is what I'm wondering. It's got to be from Electrode, or maybe like Electabuzz. That's really suspect. Having to get a bunch of early... Like, Raichu is great to kill your last opponent's Mon, but having to get your early opponent's Mons down with Electrode, which doesn't have that much HP, and Electabuzz, which also doesn't have that much HP, you're going to get mauled in the early and middle game, I feel. Maybe mauled is wrong, but I feel like it's a little suspect. The late game is a little better. But again, I would run 2 Lieutenant Surge... 2 Raichus is maybe a bit too much. I would run the other Raichu, honestly. No, this Raichu's okay. If you're going to go all in with a deck like this, I guess it makes sense. The other Electabuzz might be better. I don't like this Electric deck as much as I like the other one with the Pikachu EX. That one's way better. I wouldn't run this. Brock. I think Brock is very suspect. So we have Diglett and Dugtrio, which at least it activates fast. I think the HP is very low. It looks like 50 and 70 once it evolves. But your HP kind of feels higher than that because Dig has a good chance of... It's like a coin flip that you don't take damage next turn. So your survivability as a Dugtrio is actually better than it seems. No real synergy between this and the Geodude line. No, that's a lie. This activates really quickly. So even though it doesn't have very much HP... You just put your 1 energy on a Diglett, and then you're attacking with the Diglett while you're attaching all your future energies to Geodude. You live and die on Geodude, or Onix with a Brock deck. You really just want to get as much energy onto them as possible because they're extremely energy hungry. Onix requires 3, and Golem requires 4. And then this Graveler requires 3. You'd definitely run the other Graveler if you could in this deck, I feel. Brock, unfortunately, only attaches a guaranteed energy, but only to Golem or Onix, and that's really iffy. Golem, I wish that it could be used on Geodude and Graveler. Golem is just, it's too late by then. You'd rather have the energy earlier so you could get Graveler to actually attack, because it's got a decent attack stat. Decent damage output of 70. Same with Onix. Both of them are 3 energy for 70 damage. Onix has a lot more HP and it doesn't need to evolve. It's just already doing that. This is too slow, I feel. This whole deck is too slow. Then we got the shitty ass Hitmonchan. It's not horrible. It's just very unimpressive. You'd like lead with this. You'd put your 1 energy on it, and then you'd start loading up your energies onto any Geodude or any Onix that you got on your bench. I would definitely run 2 Rocks. I'd probably have the other Golem if I could help it. There's 2 now. I might take out the Diglett line entirely. I don't know what I would put in its place. There's like other better fighting types, but they don't work with Brock. It's not like, I don't know. Fighting decks are radically different than this. Like Marshadow is one of the best fighting types in the game right now, but like I wouldn't say it has synergy with this deck. Aerodactyl would be nice, I guess. Aerodactyl EX would be a good little ally. I don't know. Hitmonlee and Aerodactyl EX, I've run both of those in a deck together, and it's been quite good, but no I've never really played around with the Geodude deck. I find it to be too slow. It just takes forever to build up. I don't know what to say about that one. Whoa, don't look at those. Koga, I think this is real, right? Yeah, this is my funny Golbat. Um, this is okay. You would probably run Scolipede rather than Muck nowadays. You would probably not run the Zubat line. In my experience, I've run Ekans and Arbok forever. It's really common. I've probably got more mileage out of that deck than any other deck I've ever used. Or not, well, yeah, mileage. I'm not going to say it's the most successful, but it's the one I've used the most. You already beat up Psychic decks. The main reason people run Zubat Golbat is to beat up Psychic decks because they require colorless energy, so it's very easy to slot them into anything. But like this whole deck just bodies Psychic. You don't have to worry about that. You're going to flatten Mewtwo's that you run into. Um, I do like the poison plus Arbok, like trapping the opponent in. That's kind of cute, but how well does that actually work? I'm not sure. It seems kind of strong. I think Ekans could stay. You could do the Ekans Arbok thing. I would take out the Zubat 100%. Koga takes away the Muck or Weezing in the active spot and puts it into your hand. It also puts the unevolved form into your hand as well, just so we're clear. If you have a Weezing in the active spot and a Coughing underneath it, because you evolved it, you play Koga, and then the Weezing is in your hand, and the Coughing is also in your hand. And that lets you do some very hilarious things. Like, if you have two Coughings in your bench, right? Let's say you've got a Weezing, right, and then a Coughing on the bench. You attack with the Weezing with its tackle, but you also do its thing beforehand where its abilities that it can poison the opponent. So you poison the opponent, then you attack with tackle. The opponent takes a bunch of damage between the poison ticks and the tackle. They hit back your Weezing. Let's say they do 70 damage to it or something like that. Then you play your Koga, and your Weezing returns to your deck, and your Coughing as well. And then you play the Coughing to the bench. You put your other Coughing forward, and it's already been out for a turn. So you just put the Weezing you just put into your hand. You put that on that Coughing, and then you've just got a full HP Weezing again. I would definitely run 2 Koga in this deck. I would take out the Zubats. Weezing is really good for its ability to poison opponents, which sets up Venoshock Mons. We do have a Venoshock Mon here. It's Muck. So it's 70 damage normally, but it's 120 if your opponent is poisoned. And that's a very nice threshold that hits a lot of things, especially with the poison tick afterwards. So already this is technically 130. And then it could go 140 with Giovanni or stuff like that. That hits a lot of really nice thresholds. That kills a lot of Mons. The problem is Grimer is 3 retreat cost. And you can get a free retreat if you evolve it and then play a Koga, but that's one of your Kogas. Single X speed is not enough in a deck like this. I think actually if you're going to make a deck like this work, you would take out the Zubat and Golbat and you would put in Leaf and X speed. And maybe you would take out the Ekans Arbok and put in more support cards. They might be okay. I don't know what you would run with that. Hard to say. Maybe Drowsy Hypno is possible in a deck like this. I don't know if I would do that. It feels like not enough to say 2 Grimer and 2 Coughing are enough basics. But I don't know what other basic you would run. Ekans seems okay. Maybe just the fast colorless Mons such as Pidgeys are a possibility too, I suppose. The fast colorless Mons such as Farfetch'd would be nice allies, I suppose. Something that just be annoying, hard to remove. But the switching situation in this deck is a little suspect. It feels very satisfying when you poison the opponent with a Weezing, and then Koga the Weezing off the field to get the Muck into the active spot, and then attack with the Venoshock on the poisoned opponent. That is a very fun combo to pull off, and this deck does that. Again, Scolipede is probably a better ally than Muck is, though. You'd probably rather be setting up a Scolipede to do that. I don't know how effective this deck is. It's a fun deck. I understand why they built it like this. This one's okay. That's all the Genetic Apex ones. I think the MI ones, the Mythical Island, I think they're a lot better. Let's take a look. Well, some of them are. That's the only Mythical Islands card I'm missing right there, Aerodactyl. Mankey Primeape is fine in Mythical Islands. We got 50 damage on a coin flip that evolves into 50 damage always. I like how fast that is. You know exactly what that card's going to do the moment it hits the field, and it's quite satisfying to use. So you put your one energy on this, and then you evolve it, and then you're putting all your extra energies on Graveler. Synergy there. I like that synergy. Lead with the Mankey, have the the Geodude in the back, and then put one energy on the Mankey, and then a bunch of energies on the Geodude. From then on out onto the Geodude, I should say. Golem is a pretty solid win con as they go. 120 damage, plus you got a ton of HP, plus you have an effect the opponent does less damage to you. Aerodactyl EX is also a pretty solid win con. Marshadow is a great card. There's too many things going on in this deck, but the things themselves are all strong. Like, Marshadow is great. Tauros is great. This Golem is workable. This Mankey is also workable, this Primate. I would maybe run one of the other Mankeys. I said I preferred this Mankey, but actually reflecting on it, I probably prefer the 60 HP Mankey. I wouldn't have Stonejourner in here. This deck is already good enough to just bring. I would maybe double up some things. Like, if you had a second Aerodactyl EX, that would be great. Sabrina is worthy of consideration. Anytime you have cards like Geodude, where you've got a basic with a high retreat cost, you probably want Leaf in the deck somewhere. Same with Tauros. Like, if you're forced to lead with Tauros, it's not horrible. It's 3 energies. It takes a long time to set up. Geodude takes a long time to set up. Stuff like that. Brock is worthy of consideration in any deck that has Golem. Especially when you're running this Graveler that only requires 2 energies to attack. That way you can attack with a Graveler on the turn you attach the second energy to it. And then on the next turn you can evolve it to Golem, put another energy on it, and play Brock. And then you're at 4 energies, and then you can just immediately attack again. Synergy there. I would probably kill Stonejourner for Brock. I would maybe have another Brock in here somewhere. The Mankey line I think. Marshadow is a great card, but I don't know if it has synergy with this. The big gimmick with Aerodactyl I think is good here, is it prevents your opponent from evolving if they're in the active spot, and that can be very inconvenient and give you a lot of free turns. And when you're doing a bunch of evolving, you'll really appreciate those free turns, especially when you've got a card that's very energy hungry, such as Golem. So I think there's some synergy between Aerodactyl and Golem, and I think there's synergy between Golem and Primeape. So these parts I like. I don't know how I'd fix this deck. I think I would change Stonejourner for something. I would maybe take Tauros out. I don't know what I'd do from there, though. 1 basic, 2 basic, 2 more. That's 5 right there. 6. 6 is a good number. You'll have reliable basics. You'll reliably have a bench of 2 most of the time with that many. That one's okay. That's better than almost every single genetic Apex one we've looked at, I think. This one is quite terrifying if memory serves. Yeah, this one's absolutely fiendish. This is almost like a top meta deck. Maybe top meta is a bit strong. This is a meta deck. I would not have the Morla line in here. I don't know what the frick they're doing. The gimmick here is that the Snivy line doubles the amount of energy each mon in your deck is using. So every 1 energy is treated as 2 energy. So this only needs 2 energy to attack with Solar Beam, even though it says 4. It only needs 1 energy to retreat, even though it says 2. It works on itself. And that has an amazing synergy with Celebi, where it does coin flip for every energy attached to it and 50 damage per heads. So it's very easy, actually, to get 3 or 4 energies on this guy, and then you're just hitting absolutely massive damage if you have the... you're hitting if you're doing 6 flips, you're averaging 150 damage, which is enough to one-hit KO tons of stuff. But it's averages. Celebi's a little inconsistent, but that can help you too. And then this card is very good, but very energy hungry. But again, you can very easily set this up. I would maybe run the other Executor in here too, or Executor EX specifically. So you could have 2 Executor EX and then maybe 2 of this card, or maybe just 1 of each or something like that. 2 Executor EX and then 1 of this Executor. EX doesn't count towards your total, so you can have 2 EX and 2 regular, and the game doesn't care. This is a good late game card because you need all these energies to activate it, which is just only 2 energies if you got your Superior up. But this effect, 80 damage always, and then 20 more per energy, is really, really good in the late game. And this card is very bulky too. That being said, 3 retreat cost is pretty annoying if you get forced into it in the early game. I've done that before. Someone's tried to evolve their Execute to make sure it doesn't die, if it gets Sabrina or hit or something like that. But then if you bring this thing in before the opponent has Snivy, it's actually pretty hard to... Superior, it's pretty hard to get it off the field. I find I've used a lot of grass decks. Probably when I'm trying to win, I run grass, and I have a very good success rate. Like I probably win like 90% of my online matches. Not using this deck, but using one very similar to it. Um, but I have Executory X. I don't have this Morla line. Again, it doesn't benefit from having a ton of energies like these other cards do. It is nice for stalling, I guess. I don't know. Sleep is very inconsistent. I like that you put it to sleep reliably. That's quite annoying, actually. Cards that put the opponent to sleep reliably are very slept on. Delmise is a pretty funny card. It's frequently run with Superior. You would never run this without Superior. It's 20 damage for 1 energy and 90 damage for 4. And that sounds like a lot, but again, if your energy is being doubled, you only need 2 energy attachments to hit 90 damage with this guy, and that's really good. I think Mew EX also can't copy this effect, which is pretty hilarious, because it requires grass energy specifically. So you're doing 90, and if a Mew comes in, tries to use genome hacking or whatever, it's only doing 20 back to you. I don't know what Pokedex is doing here. Potion, I don't know, you would never run Potion in this deck ever in a million years because you would run Erica. That's not true. Potion is free and Erica is a supporter, so you can't use other supporters on a turn where you use Erica. So they both have their value, but I would run Erica here. I think Erica's almost always better. You could maybe run 2 of it. Leaf is good because you got Executor. I think if you take out the Morla line, put Executor EX, put some Ericas, this is a deck. This is an invincible deck. This is a super strong deck. This will get you like tons of mileage using something like this. This is probably like the probably this is like a stone's throw from being the best possible grass deck you could make. With just minor adjustments, you could make it absolutely fiendish. Gyarados. Let's see what they do. Okay, we got Magikarp and Gyarados. For whatever reason, we only have a single Gyarados. Gyarados decks are typically way more specialized than this, so this is pretty funny. There's not a whole lot of stall theming going on here. We got the Eevee and Vaporeon line, which makes sense. That's actually kind of cute. I like that. You can set up other Mons, and then once your Gyarados is on the field, you can just get it into the front, and then just use Vaporeon to put all of the other energies that you've set up onto the Gyarados. So in the early game, you can have Lumineon hitting your opponent's bench Pokemon or whatever with its Aqua Liner, and then you can retreat it for free, and it's still got the energies attached to it, and then Vaporeon can just use its washout to attach those energies onto the Gyarados. Gyarados, once it's set up, is typically just wins on the spot. It's a very good card. Tons of HP, very hard to kill, even after it hits like a Druddigon or whatever. 160 is still way too much for most things to one-hit KO. Mew is only doing 140 to it, so it needs to hit a Druddigon twice in order for Mew to be able to kill it. Don't really need Sabrina in a deck like this if you got Lumineon, I guess. I would do 2 Lumineon. I would probably not even run... I don't know. I was going to say, normally, most people who run Magikarp, they run highly specialized like stall decks where they're just using maybe Chatot and Fossils, but typically just Druddigon, and they just have a Magikarp that they just set up with a whole bunch of energies. What else do they run? I feel like I'm missing a really obvious card that they run. Mew. It's common. Mew with the Budding Explorer. Just stuff to stall while you can set up your Magikarp, and then once your Magikarp is set up, you just try and win. It's got quite a good success rate, but very polarizing. That's what people always say. Choodle and Dreadnought. Not great cards. Not impressed by them. I have actually run into a guy using Dreadnought, and he did beat me. I've only run into this once, and I lost to it, but he got good flips on his crunch, and he also set it up really fast. I think he got a Misty flip that worked. You would absolutely run Misty on any deck with Magikarp, because that can just abruptly win. It is so... Like, you can fight Gyarados. It's hard. You try and win before Gyarados hits the field. Not too long ago, I had a game where the opponent on the second turn played a Misty and got, like, 3 heads and got a Magikarp that had 4 energies on it, and then just leafed their Druddigon the next turn and, like, already had a Gyarados, and I just lost on the spot. On, like, by turn 5, I lost, just because he got good Misty flips. That kind of thing can just happen, and you need to run Misty in order to be able to win like that. All these other water types, I would not be running. I would not be running Cramorant here. You're not going to be putting in I keep on trying to say you wouldn't put energies on this because, like, you know, it's energies you could put on Gyarados, but I guess you could just use Vaporeon to move the energies later on. The problem is if the opponent kills your Cramorant, let's say you don't get the heads on your dive, and you know they just manage to hit you with 1 or 2 attacks that take you down to 0, you lose all those energies. I don't find Cramorant to be a particularly good card anyway, because 3 energies is kind of a lot for like an 80 HP Mon. That's a lot of dedication to a Mon that's not even, I don't know. This is okay. I wouldn't run this. I've never used this particular combo. Vaporeon I think is pretty good, but you would run it with bulkier things that you would have it like a bulky deck. I think Blastoise is a good ally for Vaporeon, and maybe Starmie, also worthy of consideration. Starmie's not that bulky. Starmie EX I'm talking about, and Blastoise EX. These are not the cards I would run with it, but they're trying to show off the Mythical Island cards with this deck, so I understand why they did it the way they did it. And I would absolutely run 2 Gyarados if you're going to be running Gyarados. But Gyarados decks are usually very weird, very specialized decks. What did I put in Mew? This is exciting. I have no idea. I don't love it. I don't love it. There's no big attacker here. There's no win con, I feel. The thing about Mew is it's kind of a reverse win con. Genome hacking lets you use one of your opponent's attacks, and this is unbelievably powerful in the current meta. There are so many cards that just get bodied by their own attack. Like Mewtwo gets one shot because it has 150 HP and it has a 150 damage attack. So Mew just copies Mewtwo's attack and kills it in 1 hit. Charizard gets one shot by its own attack. What are some others? Celebi can get kind of... No, not Celebi. No, yeah, Celebi. Celebi doesn't necessarily die, but, you know, Mew can get as many flips as it has energies the same way Celebi can. Celebi's attack doesn't require them to be grass energies. I don't know. There's a lot of cards that just, like, get owned by genome hacking. Druddigon amusingly gets owned by genome hacking, because Mew doesn't care about its... Like, Druddigon users very rarely can use their actual attack, but Mew can use Druddigon's attack. Because Druddigon requires 2 different energies, and most people don't run it in a fire-water deck. But Mew can just copy it. Good card here. But it's, like, you know, it can't touch itself, right? It's doing 20 to itself. I guess this is kind of a win con. Not that. That's a stupid little alien. This guy. No, I thought this was, like, Psychic. This is Mind Jack. This is different. No, this is horrible. 20 more damage for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So we're starting at 10. And if you're actually only doing 10 damage, this is terrible for an evolved Pokemon. It should be like 30 plus. It shouldn't be 10 plus. But what we're hitting 70 if their bench is full, I guess. That's okay. 70 damage for 2 energies is not super rare. So 70 damage for 1 energy is nice, but again, like if the opponent sees that you have a BM, they might deliberately try and not fill their bench. Sigilyph is a okay card. I don't love it. I typically find that it's kind of a free point for the opponent. The extra cards are not that helpful unless you need particular things, and this deck isn't running those particular things. Like if you need like the Ralts line or something like that, but we don't even, there's no Ralts to be seen here. There's a current thought that Florges is actually a workable card. Flabebe is horrible. I once had a really funny game where I was running Krabby Kingler, and the opponent led with a Flabebe and no other cards. And I played Misty on turn 1 and got 2 heads, and I used Krabby's attack, which does 40 damage for 2 energy, and I killed his Flabebe, and he never got a turn. Just straight up, my opponent never got a turn, I just won. 40 HP on a basic is really bad. That's not specifically the reason, but it'll be reasons like that. I think it's weak to metal, though, which is kind of nice. Yeah. Being weak to metal in the current meta is like being weak to nothing. But the Daga Palkia... various things have indicated to us that metal types will be good in the next expansion, so just wait on this guy. He'll be a lot worse in a little bit. Fairies are on the down. They're going down. Very low HP in this deck. You do have the Budding Explorer, which is cool. I have the rare one. I'm a cool guy. I've got the rare Budding Explorer. Another Mew would be a good ally here. This is just not you wouldn't run a Psychic deck like this. Flabebe and Florges it's got potential. The Slurpuff line is kind of just a worse. I don't know. It's not that great. It's 60 damage for 2 energies, 100 HP. It's not super impressive. Floette and Florges are kind of doing the same thing better. I feel like only 40 damage, but then 70 for the full evolution. 80, excuse me. And then you have a healing effect on both of those, and Florges heals the whole team. Healing the whole team is not super important in this deck, I feel, because you're not going to be switching around a whole lot. I feel like the lack of damage output is very suspect in this deck. Mew only has damage output depending on what you're facing, and everything else is pretty weak. I do not like that. I think this deck is too slow. I would rather just run Mew on like a Mewtwo deck. I don't have much to say about this one. I think this is kind of a weak one. The Rot's lines would be kind of interesting too. I think this one's kind of bad as well. Is it dual type? I can't even tell. It must be. It must be grass plus fighting, I guess. It could just be fighting, maybe. I have the deck. I could just like make it and then see what it does. The thing about this is that this gives itself a grass energy, and its evolution only needs one grass energy. So you could run pure fighting on this deck, and it would be workable. But that requires you to use Growth Spurt, and that's really annoying because this is an end game card. This is a late game card. Running it without Snivy means you actually have to attach all these energies to it. And Execute only has 50 HP. If this thing hits the field, there's a very good chance that middle or late game Mons can just one-hit KO it. It'd be weird if they couldn't, honestly. I mean, fuck it, Mankey can one-hit KO it. Like, come on. Mankey Primate, good early game card. I'm a big Pidgey stan. Love the Pidgey line. Why the frick is there an Eevee here? Just for canon reasons? Because this is a blue deck? I guess, because blue picked Eevee. I guess that's also why we have the Pidgey line. For those who don't know, the first Pokemon Blue ever catches is a fucking Pidgey, and he runs it. It's like his signature Mon. It's his lead for like all of Red and Blue, and then also all of Gold Silver stuff. It's like clear that he caught a Pidgey, and he's super proud of it, and it became like his ace. He doesn't even have a freaking starter, I think, in Gen 2, but he has the fucking Pidgeot to start. Let me think here. I'm a big fan of the Pidgeot EX. I think that's a great card. And Pokeflute has nice synergy with it. Pidgeot EX does 20 damage for each benched Pokemon. So it starts out at 80, which is actually a very respectable number. And then becomes like up to 140, which is amazing. I would definitely run this with Giovanni to hit various thresholds. It's like if you're running into a Celebi or something like that, you know, you really appreciate being able to go from 120 damage to 130 with a Giovanni. Sabrina is also a good ally. Pokeflute is actually viable in this deck. I would never run Eevee with no evolution. That's just stupid. This is the wrong Pidgeotto. This Pidgey you can get away with running is the 50 HP version. I personally like it, but most people think it's worse than the other one. But this Pidgeotto is just stupid. It's just bad. I do like the 90 HP, but 3 energies to attack is really annoying. But I suppose you can hide behind your Mankey. The Mankey is the only fast card in this deck. That's my biggest problem with it. Execute is a liability until it evolves and has a lot of energy. Mankey activates right away. Pidgey is not good until it's got a lot of energy on it, especially if you're running this Pidgeotto. Tauros is only good once it's got a lot of energy, but at least has a lot of HP. Eevee is just a joke if you're not even running an evolution for it. This is an interesting deck, but I think it's bad. It's too unfocused. You can absolutely... I've actually got a meta deck. Hold on, I'm going to take a break from this to look at that. I've got a meta deck somewhere. Where are my decks? There you go, Pidgeot Tauros. This is like a meta deck that uses Pidgeot EX and then like other Mons of other colors. That's a mistake in this deck. Alright, the mistake has been fixed. I've never used this deck online yet. The idea here is that you've got various Mons that can all kind of win on the spot, and you just choose what you're building up based on. You got fire and water energy, so you can actually attack with Druddigon. And then Druddigon is also a wall to build up because everything is so energy hungry. You need 3 for this, you need 3 for this, you need 3 for this, and you need 3 for this. Everything needs an ass ton of energy. So you're hiding behind your Druddigon while you're sticking energies on things. And then what you build up is based on what kind of deck you're fighting. So if you're fighting like... I don't know, Pikachu, you'd build up a Tauros, because Tauros can one-shot Pikachu. If you're fighting Mewtwo, you'd build up Mew, because Mew can one-shot Mewtwo. If it's Celebi, you could do Tauros with Giovanni for the kill. Or you could do Pidgeot for the kill, because probably they're going to be running Celebi with, like, you know, Superior or something like that, other bench Pokemon. Basically, you just build up energy for whatever their particular deck is weak to. It's a very nice anti-meta deck. It doesn't really have that many bad matchups at all, I don't think. I think Gyarados might be a little suspect. Like, what do I do versus Gyarados? Obviously, Mew can hit it for 140, which is kind of nice. And then Druddigons cause it to hurt itself. Pidgeot, man, I don't know about Gyarados. That one's kind of tricky. I do have Sabrinas. I got two different Sabrinas, so you've got possibilities of killing a Magikarp. But everything attacks so slowly. The only thing that really has a shot of killing Magikarp is Pidgeotto. But you can potentially Sabrina them into Magikarp and kill it with Pidgeotto. Once it's a Gyarados, you can still attack it. You can bring it in and attack it before it's got enough energy to attack, is a thing as well. I don't know. But most meta decks, you got something you can build up with a deck like this. This is what like a multicolored Pidgeot EX deck should look like. And the one we're looking at back there, oops, I should have actually saved that. That's probably what happened last time. The Pidgeot deck we looked at back there, it was missing. The Mons didn't have good enough synergy. But this is just me talking about like pure meta. Anyway, I think that was the last one, right? Yeah, those are all the rental decks. If I was going to rate them, let me think. The Celebi one is very good. It's probably the best one. Aerodactyl EX I think looked okay, right? Am I wrong? Yeah, that one looks. I could gel with that one. I don't like the Gyarados one, but it might have potential. Mew one looked bad. Pidgeot one looked bad. That was the one I was just on. Venusaur one looked okay. Charizard one looked suspect. Blastoise one looked okay. Pikachu one looked really good. Mewtwo one looked okay. You would definitely have run Ralts on it. No, I don't. I changed my mind. I don't like the Mewtwo one. Machamp one looked bad. Nidoqueen one looked okay. Maybe bad. Kanto one looked like a joke. Blaine one looked quite good. Lieutenant and Surge one looked okay. Brock one looked okay. Koga one looked quite good. That's my ratings. Okay, this is my tier list. You just have to do it yourself. Ooh, hour. Kind of a long video. Maybe I should have scripted it and done it like, all proper. Anyway, thanks for watching.